I practice pathology. I've been doing it for over 30 years. I work with the laboratories that do all the work for ProMedica, and I'm the chairman of the department. Interestingly, I came to the University of Toledo as a chemistry major, but my advisor saw me sitting, this is kind of strange, my advisor saw me sitting in the chemistry section for the orientation, and he's like, "You don't belong there, you're pre-med." And so he said, "You need to come over here." So I ended up in the pre-med area, which I was, but everything that I did there, all the science that I learned, it kind of steered me even more in the direction of going into medicine. And the hard work you have to put into individually set me up well for going to medical school. One of my dad's best friends, he played golf with all the time, Dr. Draheim. He was an eye surgeon and worked at Toledo Hospital. And I think knowing him and respecting him, and also my dad liking him so much and respecting him, and obviously I was lucky enough that I got really good grades, that they all said, "You should be a doctor." And I honestly thought when I went to medical school that I was going to be a primary care physician. And I found out that I wasn't as much of a people person as you kind of need to be for that. And that's how I got into medicine, and the last part is the reason I ended up doing pathology, which is really more of the science of medicine. I was a little surprised. I mean, I thought that there are probably other people who are more involved with the university than I am, but it was a pleasant surprise that they actually appreciated what I have contributed, and obviously I'm honored because that was probably the best 4 years of my education were the 4 years I spent at UT. To me, it means that what I've been doing really was valuable, and honestly, has probably inspired me to do more. Knowing that what I've done has been appreciated, it's made me think I have more I can give, and so I've tried to get more involved in ways, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to contribute even more. To a certain extent, what I'm most proud of is what seems to be the most valued part of me by other people. Almost everywhere I've gone in my career, the fact that I had spent 2 years at Memorial Sloan Kettering as a fellow and as a chief fellow, everybody seems to look at that and say, "Oh, this guy learned something and he's going to be helpful." And so having spent those 2 years and having been successful there, and actually probably the greatest compliment I ever received was from the director of surgical pathology at Memorial when I was there, a guy named Phil Lieberman. And when I was ending my chief fellowship, he said, "You're the best chief fellow that I've ever had," which was really shocking because I came from the Medical University of South Carolina, and most of the other people that were chief fellow were coming from Johns Hopkins and Harvard and other really high-ranked schools. And so that was a great compliment he gave me. Enriching, also entertaining. I was in a fraternity, and so we had all kinds of parties and games and, intramural sports, and we did so much together. That was the entertaining part. The enriching part was probably the professors I had and the subjects I was able to learn. You go to medical school and then all of a sudden everything is tied to medicine. And at the University of Toledo, I had the chance to do all the things I need to do to get into medical school with very good professors. But also, I got to enrich myself with many quarters of studying history, which I loved. So those would probably be the two best words. I'm sure I had a lot of fond memories, some of them being going to football games with the fraternity, and a number of my classes were very exciting. Probably the fondest memory I have that always brings a smile to my face is that I had Dr. Najelski for 2 out of my 3 freshman year chemistry quarters. And the first 2 quarters I did very well. I had learned most of it in high school. The third quarter was all new material that I'd never seen before. And I was struggling with it. And I got a C, a solid C on all the midterms. So at the end of the quarter, I calculated everything and realized that I could not possibly get an A. What the final was valued at, I couldn't get high enough to get up into a B category, and I was almost certainly not going to fail it badly enough to go to a D. So I really didn't even study that hard. I studied while I was sitting out at Inverness watching a golf tournament. And lo and behold, I go in for the exam, a multiple choice exam, and I finished it in no time. I just looked at it and said, I think that's it, I think that's it. And answered all the questions and left, first person out of the room. And then a couple days later, when I went to see what my grade was, I went into Bowmanati and I saw that I got a B, and I couldn't figure out how that was possible. I went to Dr. Najelski's office and started to walk in to ask him, and he just dropped his head, and I said, I don't understand, how did I get a B? And he said, I kind of felt like I had to give you a B. I'd never had anybody ace my final exam before. So that was a very fond memory. Well, definitely Dr. Najelski was one of them. I wish I could say, I had a couple history professors that had an impact on me, just on understanding life through history. And honestly, it's been so long, I can't remember their names. I'd like to be remembered as an honest, trustworthy, hardworking person. I know I'm not going to be remembered as being really exciting because I'm not usually the life of the party, but I just hope people would remember me as caring.